So how can we find our x-intercepts and our y-intercepts without having to graph? Okay, without having to look at a graph. So if you remember, an x-intercept is x comma 0. The x value is something, your y value is nothing because you're on the x-axis. Okay, you're not moving up or down at all. So if I wanted to find the x-intercept, I need to plug 0 in for y. 0 equals negative 2x minus 10. Okay? So solve this now for x. Add 10 to both sides, so I'll get 10 equals negative 2x. Divide both sides by negative 2, I'll get x equals negative 5. So for my x-intercept, if I plug in negative 5, I get out 0. Okay? For my y-intercept, all right, I plug in 0 for x and I get out my value for y. So plug in 0 for x. Y equals negative 2, plug in 0 for x, minus 10. Well, negative 2 times 0, that's just going to be 0. So 0 minus 10 is negative 10. So if I plug in 0 for x, I get out negative 10 for y. That's my y-intercept. Okay? 4x minus 9y equals 18. So x-intercept, plug in 0 for y. 4x minus 9, instead of y, plug in 0, equals 18. Well, negative 9 times 0 is just 0, so that goes away. So I get 4x equals 18. Divide both sides by 4, so I'll get x equals 18 divided by 4. If I simplify this fraction, I can divide a 2 out of each of the top and the bottom, which is going to be 9 halves, or if you had a decimal, 4.5. Okay, so the x-intercept is 4.50. To find the y-intercept, I plug in 0 for x, I get out something for y. All right, so I plug in 0 for x, so I got 4 times 0 minus 9y equals 18. 4 times 0, that goes away. So I'll have negative 9y equals 18. If I divide both sides by negative 9, I'll get y equals negative 2. So if I plug in 0 for x, I get out negative 2 for y. That is my y-intercept. Okay, so that is where my graph crosses the y-axis. So we can also use intercepts to talk about word problems. So in the example 3, we've got a box of peanuts that we're pouring into bags at a constant rate of 4 ounces per second. The table shows this function relating the weight of peanuts in the box to the time in seconds that we've been pouring them out of the box. Okay? Determine the x and y intercepts based on this table. So x-intercept is x comma 0. So where is my y value 0? Right here. Okay, so the x-intercept is 500 comma 0. Okay, the y-intercept has an x-coordinate of 0 because I'm just moving up or down. I'm not moving to the left or the right. All right, well notice that's right here in your table. The x-coordinate is 0. The y-coordinate is 2000. This right here is your y-intercept. Well, what do these mean? What do these points mean? Okay, well, the x-coordinate represents time. The y-coordinate represents the weight that's in the box that we're pouring all these peanuts out of. Okay, so the x-intercept, what does this represent? Well, at the x-intercept, 500 seconds have passed, and the weight of the box is 0. So what does that mean? After 500 seconds, there are no more peanuts in the box. Okay? A couple different ways that we could say this, but basically that's what it means. We've been pouring peanuts over the last 500 seconds, and after 500 seconds, after we're done, there's no more peanuts to pour. Okay, so after 500 seconds, we've filled all the bags. We've poured out all the peanuts. There's a couple different ways we could say that. Okay, but after 500 seconds, the 500 represents time. So 500 seconds, there's no more weight in the box. All right, the y-intercept represents the beginning. Before we start pouring, because 0 seconds have passed. So before we start pouring, we're starting with 2,000 ounces of peanuts in the box. That's what the y-intercept represents. It's your beginning. No time has passed. So we're starting with 2,000 ounces of peanuts in this box, and we're going to start pouring those out into bags. And it's going to take 500 seconds for us to pour all the peanuts out of the box into the bags. All right, so that's interpreting the x and the y-intercept based off of a table. In example 4, let's do it based off of a graph. All right, so we've got water drainage. So we've got an amount of water, and then over a certain amount of minutes, it's being drained out of a tank. Okay, so the x-intercept. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, which is going to be 4, 0. Okay, what does the 4 represent? 4 represents the minutes. 0 represents the amount of water. So it takes 4 minutes to drain all the water. Okay? Notice at that point, at 4-0, there's no more water left. There's no more gallons of water. We've drained out all the water. Okay? The y-intercept is 0 to 100. That's its coordinate, 0 to 100. Okay? So that represents the beginning. No time has passed. 0 minutes have passed. So the amount of water, or I should say the starting amount of water, is 200 gallons. So whether it's a tank or an aquarium, whatever it may be, we're starting with 200 gallons at the very beginning. That's what the y-intercept represents. Okay? And to close out this concept of intercepts, we can use these to graph equations. So in the previous video, we used a table. We plugged in values for x. We got out their value for y, and then we plotted those points. Well, down here, we're going to use intercepts to graph. So we need to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So I have 1/2 times x minus 3. Instead of y, I'm going to plug in 0 equals 3. All right, well, 3 times 0, oops, sorry. This is gone. Negative 3 times 0 is gone because that's just going to be 0. So I've got 1/2 x equals 3. To get the x totally by itself, I need to divide by 1/2, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so 3 times 2 over 1 is 6. So my x-intercept is 6, 0. I can plot that right there. That's my x-intercept. Okay, the y-intercept, get a different color. The y-intercept says the x-coordinate is 0. What is the y-coordinate? So I'm going to plug in 0 for my x, and I'm going to solve for my y. So 1/2 times 0 is 0, so I've got negative 3y equals 3. Divide both sides by negative 3, I'll get y equals negative 1. So my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. It crosses the y-axis at that point 0, negative 1. So now all I need to do, plot these 2 points and connect the dots. All right, the only issue with graphing using the intercepts is you only have 2 points to connect, so sometimes your line is a little messy. All right, so we're going to talk about other ways to graph in future lessons, okay? But the issue with graphing using only the intercepts is if you only got 2 points to connect, so you have to be very careful. All right, part B. Let's finish this out. X-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for y. So I get 4x plus 0 equals 4. So I'll have 4x equals 4, so x will equal 1. So the x-intercept is 1, 0, right there. All right, the y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So I have 4 times 0 plus y equals 4. 4 times 0 cancels out, and I'm left with just y equals 4. So the y-coordinate is 4. 0, 4, plot that. And then last but not least, all I got to do is connect the dots. Okay, so I connect here. Oops, it's a little off again. I only have 2 points, so I got to be careful. Something like that. All right, and again, in future lessons, we'll talk about quicker ways to graph. But right now, we've got graphing using a table and graphing by finding the 2 intercepts. Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to practice these problems.